Step back in time to explore unique, forgotten home designs. Imagine houses that are octagonal, steel, or castle-like. This journey through architectural history reveals 20 remarkable styles, their charms, brief popularity, and ultimate decline. Why did these styles fade from popularity? So, picture this. It's the mid-1800s, and there's this buzz about octagon houses. Yeah, 8-sided houses. And it's all thanks to this guy, Orson Squire Fowler. Fowler was like the ultimate octagon house influencer. He believed these quirky homes were way better, more space, better air circulation, and tons of natural light. Think about it. Same perimeter as a square or rectangle, but you get 20% more living space inside. Genius, right? It was all about maximizing your square footage without needing a bigger foundation. Smart. These houses often had flat roofs, a little cupola on top for extra light and air, and wraparound porches perfect for hanging out and connecting the different sides of the house. Plus, they had these open floor plans, which was pretty radical back then. The idea was that the air would flow better, keeping things cooler in the summer. Now, even with all these cool features, octagon houses never really took off. They're kind of like that band that was super popular for, like, a minute, and then, poof. We do have some awesome examples still standing, like Longwood in Mississippi and the Octagon House in Wisconsin. Even Fowler's own place, which they nicknamed Fowler's Folly, ended up getting torn down. But even though they're rare, octagon houses are this super cool reminder of how people were willing to experiment with design back in the day. Total architectural trailblazers. Alright, let's talk Queen Anne. From about 1880 to 1910, this style was everywhere in American homes. It totally kicked the stuffy Second Empire style to the curb. Think less formal mansion, more fairy tale dream house. We're talking major curb appeal. Queen Anne homes were all about being bold and a little bit extra. Asymmetrical? Check. Huge wraparound porches? Double check. Intricate woodwork that looked like it was spun from sugar? Absolutely. They loaded up on patterned shingles, those cool bay windows that jut out, and gorgeous stained glass. And many had these awesome towers or turrets. Seriously, they looked like mini castles. The best part? No two Queen Anne houses were alike. Architects went wild with different roof lines, throwing in gables, dormers, and fancy trim. These weren't just houses, they were statements. They screamed, "Look at me, I'm fabulous," and they totally reflected the good times and optimism of the late 1800s. But, trends change. After 1900, people started craving simpler, more toned-down styles. The Queen Anne look, with all its bells and whistles, started to fade. But we've still got some incredible examples standing, like the Carson Mansion in California. Seriously, Google it. It's the perfect picture of Queen Anne's over-the-top, totally awesome vibe. A true architectural icon. Okay, so after all that Victorian-era fussiness, people were ready for something different. Enter the American Foursquare. This style was like the architectural equivalent of a deep breath, clean, simple, and totally practical. It was all about ditching the frills and getting back to basics. From around 1895 to the late 1930s, these boxy, 2.5-story houses popped up everywhere. They were nicknamed prairie boxes, and you can kind of see the connection to that prairie school style that Frank Lloyd Wright made famous. Think symmetrical design, a big, welcoming front porch with sturdy columns, and a hipped roof that's where the roof slopes down on all four sides with a dormer window smack dab in the center. Inside, it was all about open space and making the most of every square foot. Built-in cabinets? Yep, they were all over that way ahead of their time. No wasted space, no unnecessary details. Just comfortable, functional living. But here's the really cool part. You could order these houses from a catalog. Companies like Sears and Aladdin sold them as kits, so families all over America could afford to build their own homes. Talk about democratizing design. It's no wonder Foursquares were so popular for so long. And tons of them are still around today, looking just as good as ever, a true testament to that classic, no-nonsense American style. Alright, let's talk craftsman. This style was all about handcrafted goodness, natural materials, and keeping things simple and beautiful. It was like the total opposite of those fussy Victorian houses. Think early 1900s. Especially in California, that's where the craftsman style really took off, from about 1905 to 1930. These homes were all about quality over, well, showing off. Solid wood, rail stone, and handcrafted details were the stars of the show. You could spot a craftsman house a mile away. Low-pitched roofs with those wide eaves and exposed rafters, and often with decorative beams or brackets. Super distinctive. And inside, built-in everything. Bookshelves, window seats, it was all about making the home both gorgeous and practical. This guy, Gustav Stickley, was a big deal in the craftsman world. He had this magazine, The Craftsman, that spread the word about this awesome style. Now, unlike some fancy design movements in Britain, American craftsman homes were meant to be for everyone. Affordable, well-built, and beautiful. But, like all good things, the trend faded by the 1930s. Simpler, more modern styles took over. But if you want to see a perfect example of craftsman style, check out the Gamble House in Pasadena. It's basically the poster child for everything that made this movement so special: warmth, craftsmanship, and a connection to nature. Pure architectural eye candy. Okay, y'all, let's head down south and talk about the Shotgun House. This style is iconic, especially in places like New Orleans. From the 1870s to the 1920s, these homes were the thing, and you can still see tons of them today. Picture this: a long, narrow, rectangular house, with rooms lined up one after the other, like a straight shot, hence the name. No hallways, usually. It's all about that airflow, which was crucial in the hot, humid southern climate. Think of it as built-in air conditioning, the old-fashioned way. Now, the really cool part is where these houses came from. They're believed to have roots in Haitian and West African architecture, brought over through the Caribbean. Talk about a melting pot of influences. Their simple design made them super affordable, perfect for working-class families. Plus, you could squeeze a bunch of them onto small lots, which was great for city living. Over time, a lot of shotgun houses fell into disrepair. But lately, they've been making a comeback. People are restoring them, and they're becoming trendy again. And get this, Elvis Presley's birthplace in Tupelo, Mississippi? It's a shotgun house. How cool is that? It's a perfect example of this uniquely Southern style: simple, practical, and full of history. I have kept the language and phrases suitable for Southern US. Okay, let's take a trip back in time and talk about Tudor Revival. This style was a real favorite from the 1890s all the way through the 1940s. It was like bringing a little slice of medieval England right here to the States. Think storybook charm, but on a grand scale. These homes were easy to spot. Steep, gabled roofs, the kind that look like triangles, decorative half-timbering on the walls, and those tall, impressive chimneys, often with fancy brickwork or those cute little chimney pots on top. Very distinctive. Back in the early 1900s, folks with a bit of money really went for Tudor Revival. It just had that old-world elegance and a sense of solid craftsmanship. These weren't your cookie-cutter houses. They had arched doorways, windows with those little diamond-shaped panes of glass, and textured stucco or brick exteriors. Inside, you'd find exposed wooden beams, grand fireplaces, and rooms that weren't perfectly square, all adding to that cozy, medieval feel. But, tastes change. After World War II, people started wanting something simpler, more modern. Tudor Revival kind of faded into the background. Then, in the 70s and 80s, builders tried to bring it back, but they often used, less authentic materials, things like fake wood and manufactured stone. It just didn't have the same magic. The genuine article, though, is still something special to see. Let's turn our attention to the Dutch Colonial Revival, a style that really captured hearts from the 1910s to the 1930s. It was like a fond look back at the homes built by early Dutch settlers in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, way back in the 17th and 18th centuries. The defining feature? That gambrel roof. You know, the one that looks like a barn roof, two slopes on each side. It's not just charming, it's practical, giving you more headroom upstairs. Add to that the wide eaves, those big dormer windows, and a symmetrical front with shutters, and you've got a house that just oozes traditional charm. Now, the original Dutch colonial homes were often made of brick or stone. But these revival versions? Mostly wood siding that was the trend in the early 1900s. Inside, it was all about comfort, central hallways, big fireplaces, and cozy living spaces. Warmth and practicality were key. Most Dutch colonial revival homes were, you know, regular family houses in the suburbs. But there were some grand examples, too. The Biltmore Estate, built for George Vanderbilt, it has some Dutch colonial touches. And then there's 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. That house, you might know it from the Amityville Horror. Even though you don't see many new Dutch colonial revival homes being built these days, the older ones are still treasured for their classic good looks and that connection to our history. Now here's a fascinating story, Lustron homes. After World War II, America was facing a serious housing shortage. Returning GIs needed homes, and they needed them fast. Carl Strandland came up with a pretty radical solution: prefabricated, all-steel houses. Think of it as a house made entirely of enameled steel, inside and out. Between 1948 and 1950, over 2,000 of these Lustron homes were built, mostly across the U.S., but a few even made it down to Venezuela. These weren't your typical houses. They were designed to be super durable, resistant to fire, termites, you name it. And talk about easy to clean. You could practically just wipe down the walls. They even had built-in storage, so you didn't need a ton of furniture. Some models even came with a combination washer-dryer, very cutting-edge for the time. These homes were shipped in kits and assembled on-site, like putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle. It was a brilliant idea, really. Affordable, durable housing, built quickly. But, sadly, it didn't quite work out. Production stopped in 1950. High costs and government regulations got in the way. Today, though, those surviving Lustron homes are treasured. They're like these mid-century modern time capsules, reminders of a bold attempt to revolutionize how we build homes. Preservationists are working hard to keep them around, and rightly so. Let's talk Atomic Ranch, the cool, stylish cousin of the classic ranch house. This was the look of mid-century modern, back in the 50s and 60s. Think clean lines, open spaces, and a real connection between the inside and the outside. These homes just ooze that optimistic, space-age vibe of the post-war era. Now, a key figure here is architect Cliff May. Back in the 30s, he was already playing with the ranch style, taking inspiration from Spanish colonial haciendas. His designs were all about sprawling, single-story living, casual and open. And that idea really took off with the Atomic Ranch. These homes often had flat or those cool butterfly roofs, asymmetrical designs, and walls of glass. You practically felt like you were living outdoors. And the colors? Vibrant, bold, with geometric patterns. They used materials like formica and aluminum, very futuristic for the time. Then you have Joseph Eichler, especially in California. He built tons of these Atomic Ranch homes, influenced by the Bauhaus movement and Frank Lloyd Wright's Usonian houses. Think post and beam construction, atriums, and carports instead of stuffy old garages. Sure, they weren't as popular in later years, but Atomic Ranch homes are hot property today. People love that retro charm and, honestly, how modern they still feel. They're a classic example of mid-century design at its best. Now, let's talk about a style that's definitely not for everyone: brutalism. These homes, popular from the 1950s to the 1970s, were a bold statement. Think raw concrete, geometric shapes, and absolutely no frills. Inspired by the modernist movement and architects like Le Corbusier, brutalism was all about function, function, function. The name itself comes from the French béton brut, meaning raw concrete, and that's exactly what you got. These homes often looked like massive, almost fortress-like structures with rough, unfinished surfaces. They were all about practicality, open floor plans, exposed beams and columns, and built to last. You saw brutalism more often in things like public housing, universities, and government buildings. But some architects did experiment with it in private homes, creating these striking, almost shocking residences that were the complete opposite of your typical suburban house. By the late 70s, though, brutalism had kind of lost its appeal. People started associating it with, well, urban blight and a cold, institutional feel. A lot of brutalist buildings were torn down or changed to look less, well, brutal. But lately, there's been a renewed interest. Architects and preservationists are recognizing the raw beauty, the honesty of the materials, and the sculptural quality of these buildings. It's a style that definitely makes you think. Neoclassical homes, truly timeless examples of grandeur and elegance. These homes take their inspiration straight from ancient Greece and Rome, and you can see it in every detail. They started popping up in the late 1700s and stayed popular well into the 20th century, and for good reason. They're impressive. Think big, symmetrical, and meticulously designed. Neoclassical homes have a sense of formality and, let's be honest, a bit of showing off. They were often built to showcase wealth and status. One of the first things you'll notice is the columns. Tall, dramatic columns, often Doric, Ionic, or Corinthian, usually framing the front entrance. It gives the house this stately, almost temple-like look. Sometimes, those columns go all the way across the front, creating a grand colonnade, like something out of an ancient palace. Everything is perfectly balanced, evenly spaced windows, a centered doorway. It all creates this harmonious, pleasing effect. And the details, pediments, intricate moldings, decorative cornices, it's all about that classical sophistication. You'll often see classical motifs around the doorways and windows, like pilasters and fanlights. The styles evolved a bit over time, sure, but neoclassical homes are still a go-to for government buildings, historic mansions, and even high-end modern homes. They just have that timeless appeal that never really goes out of style. Let's talk about a true American classic, the Cape Cod house. This style is instantly recognizable, and for good reason. It's been around since the late 1600s. It's all about charming simplicity and a design that just works. Think of it as the New England version of an English cottage, but built to handle those tough winters. The key features are pretty straightforward. A steeply pitched roof, the kind that looks like a triangle wood siding, and a symmetrical front. It's both practical and easy on the eyes. Those early Cape Cod homes were pretty modest, just one story, with a big chimney right in the middle to keep things warm. The steep roof? That was to help shed all that snow. And the sturdy wood construction? That was to stand up to those coastal storms. They had those multi-pane windows to let in the light, and later on, people started adding dormer windows upstairs for more air and space. Now, Cape Cod stayed mostly a New England thing for a long time. But then, in the 1930s, they became super popular, especially as affordable housing in the suburbs. Today, you'll see bigger versions, with updated materials, maybe an extra wing or a garage. But they still have that cozy, timeless feel of the originals. It's a style that's truly stood the test of time. Let's journey to the French countryside, without leaving the States. Country French homes bring that European elegance right here to America. This style goes way back to the 18th century, when French settlers brought it to places like Louisiana and the Mississippi Valley. Think of those charming, rustic homes you'd see in rural France. That's the inspiration. These houses are all about graceful proportions, steeply pitched roofs, and a warm, inviting feel. Usually, they're one story, but sometimes you'll see a second level tucked up under that distinctive roof. The exteriors? Often stucco, maybe with some stone or brick mixed in, and that classic half-timbered look. It's like a nod to medieval European craftsmanship. Tall, narrow windows with shutters add to that old-world charm. and you'll often see arched entryways and wrought iron details. It's refined, but not stuffy. And that roof, whether it's hipped or side-gabled, it's a key part of the country French look, giving the house a stately, yet cozy presence. You'll often find these homes on larger lots. With winding driveways and beautiful gardens, it all adds to the curb appeal. Now, while the style is rooted in history, modern country French homes often have all the modern conveniences, but they still keep that classic European elegance that makes them so special. It's a timeless look that's both sophisticated and comfortable. Colonial legacy, America's architectural roots. This is one of the most iconic and enduring architectural styles in the country, going all the way back to the early 1600s. It's rooted in European traditions, especially English, and it's all about symmetry, balance, and above all, practicality. Over the years, colonial architecture branched out into different substyles. You've got your Georgian, Federal, and Dutch colonial, each with its own little quirks. But they all share those core colonial elements. Typically, you're looking at a 2- or 3-story house, rectangular in shape, with the front door right in the middle and windows evenly spaced on either side. Brick or wood are the classic materials, giving these homes a stately, yet welcoming feel. Inside, it's all about function. Living room, dining room, kitchen, those are on the first floor. Bedrooms are upstairs. It's a clear separation between where you entertain and where you sleep. You'll often see dormer windows poking out of the roof, decorative shutters on the windows, and maybe a columned entryway. And, of course, a fireplace, a nod to the days when that was your main source of heat. Even though they're rooted in history, colonial homes are still super popular today. Their timeless appeal, that classic design, and that sense of elegance, it just never gets old. They're adaptable, too, fitting in just as well in a historic neighborhood as they do in a modern development. Let's step back in time and talk about Victorian homes, some of the most ornate and visually stunning houses you'll ever see. These homes are all about the grandeur and creativity of the 19th century during Queen Victoria's reign. Think Industrial Revolution, a time when all those intricate details that used to be too expensive to make by hand suddenly became possible. You can spot a Victorian house a mile away. Steep roofs, those prominent gables facing the front, and tons of elaborate woodwork. They're not symmetrical, that's part of the charm. Bay windows, turrets, towers, it's all a bit whimsical, like something out of a fairy tale. And that intricate trim, sometimes called gingerbread, it's pure Victorian. Many of these homes also have those wonderful wraparound porches with fancy posts and spindles, perfect for relaxing and enjoying the neighborhood. Inside, it was all about luxury. High ceilings, intricate moldings, richly patterned wallpapers, and stained glass windows. Now, back in the day, they loved deep, bold colors and lots of furniture. Today, people often mix those classic architectural features with more modern colors and materials. It's a way to keep the historical character of the house while making it comfortable for today's living. Whether they're restored to their original glory or given a modern update, Victorian homes are a true symbol of craftsmanship, elegance, and artistic expression. Let's explore Tudor-style homes. They're like bringing a little piece of medieval England right here to America. Think old-world charm, but with a modern twist. Now, the real Tudor period was way back in the 1500s and 1600s, but the Tudor revival style we're talking about is more from the late 1800s and early 1900s. It takes inspiration from both those quaint medieval cottages and the grand manor houses. One of the first things you'll notice is the roof steeply pitched, often with those cross gables that stick out. And then there's the half timbering, those dark wooden beams against the light-colored stucco or stone. It's very distinctive, almost like something out of a storybook. You'll often see brickwork, too, especially on the lower parts of the house or the chimneys, adding a bit of warmth and texture. And the windows, tall, narrow, with lots of small panes, sometimes with dark wood or leaded glass, it all adds to that old-world feel. Inside, Tudor homes are all about coziness. Exposed wooden beams, stone fireplaces, arched doorways, it's like stepping back in time. They often use rich, earthy colors and textured materials, really playing up that medieval-inspired charm. Now, while those original Tudor homes were huge estates, the American Tudor Revival style adapted the look for more, shall we say, normal-sized houses in the suburbs. It's a style that's both grand and inviting. Cottage coziness, storybook style. They're all about charm, coziness, and that old-world European feel. Think of those picturesque thatched-roof cottages from medieval England. That's the inspiration. These homes really took off in the U.S. during the 1920s and 30s, offering a sweet, welcoming alternative to the bigger, more formal houses of the time. They're like something out of a storybook, really. Steeply pitched roofs, sometimes with those cross gables that add a little extra something. Arched doorways, rounded doors, and those casement windows with lots of little panes, it all adds to that fairy tale vibe. And the exteriors? Usually brick, stone, or stucco, giving them a rustic, handcrafted look that just blends right in with nature. Inside, it's all about warmth and comfort. Exposed wooden beams, built-in shelves, and a cozy fireplace, often the heart of the home. The layouts are usually pretty compact, but they make the most of the space, creating a feeling of intimacy. And outside, lush gardens, winding paths, and window boxes overflowing with flowers, it all completes that enchanting storybook picture. Now, those original cottages were pretty small. Modern versions might be a bit bigger, but they still keep that inviting, nostalgic charm that's made them so popular for generations. It's a style that's both timeless and incredibly cozy. Let's take a trip to the Mediterranean, at least in spirit. Mediterranean-style homes are all about warmth, elegance, and that wonderful indoor-outdoor living. Think of those beautiful villas in Spain, Italy, and Greece. That's where the inspiration comes from. This style really caught on in the US in the early 1900s, especially in places like California and Florida, where the climate is just perfect for it. One of the first things you'll notice is that low-pitched, red tile roof. It's not just beautiful, it's practical, too, keeping the house cool in the hot sun. The exteriors are usually stucco or adobe, often in those warm, earthy tones: white, beige, terracotta. It all adds to that sun-drenched, old-world feel. Arches are a big deal in Mediterranean architecture. You'll see them in doorways, windows, and those covered walkways. They add so much grace and charm. And then there's the wrought iron balconies, railings, decorative grills. It's all very European. A key feature of this style is the U-shaped floor plan, with a courtyard in the middle. Maybe there's a fountain, a garden, or even an outdoor fireplace. It's all about bringing the outdoors in. Large windows, French doors, and lodges open up to the courtyard, letting in the light and the breeze. Inside, you might find exposed wooden beams, tile or stone floors, and beautiful details like hand-painted tiles and carved wood. It's relaxed luxury, a blend of rustic charm and timeless elegance. Let's talk about Italianate houses, a style that really captured that grand, romantic feel of 19th century Italian villas. These homes were popular here in the States from the 1840s to the 1880s, and they were a bit of a departure from the stricter, more symmetrical styles that came before. Think picturesque, think decorative. That's Italianate. One of the first things you'll notice is the roofline. Those overhanging eaves, supported by decorative brackets, often in pairs or fancy patterns. The roofs themselves are usually low-pitched or gently sloping, and sometimes you'll see a cupola or a square tower, adding a bit of drama. And the windows, tall, narrow, often arched, they really emphasize the height of the house and give it a sense of elegance. They often have elaborate crowns or pediments above them, adding to the ornamentation. The entrances are grand, too. Double doors, often arched or with heavily carved surrounds. And you might have a wraparound porch with delicate columns and railings, perfect for relaxing and enjoying the neighborhood. Most Italianate homes are 2 or 3 stories, and the floor plans are usually rectangular or L-shaped. But it's the details that really make them stand out. Intricate moldings, coins, those are the decorative cornerstones, and those brackets we talked about. It all adds up to a refined, stately look. Now, Italian architecture kind of faded out by the late 1800s, but you can still find some beautifully preserved examples, especially in historic districts. It's a style that really blends that old-world elegance with American craftsmanship, a true standout in architectural history. Greek Revival homes, they're a true icon of American architecture, and for good reason. Popular from the 1820s to the 1860s, this style was all about bringing the grandeur and elegance of ancient Greek temples right here to the States. Think democracy, think timeless beauty. That's Greek Revival. You can spot these homes easily: bold, white facades, and often a grand entryway framed by those towering columns. Doric, Ionic, or Corinthian, those are the classic orders. And those columns support a prominent pediment, that triangular shape above the entrance, really making the house look like an ancient Greek structure. The roofs are usually low-pitched or gabled, adding to the commanding presence. And everything is symmetrical, perfectly balanced, creating a stately look. Large, rectangular windows, often with decorative lintels above them, let in plenty of natural light. And the entrances? They often have transoms and sidelights, those extra windows around the door, making the house feel open and inviting. Down south, you'll see Greek Revival homes with huge porches, perfect for staying cool and enjoying the outdoors. Picture those porches with rocking chairs. They're just made for relaxing and socializing. Greek Revival architecture was everywhere in the early to mid-1800s. Not just houses, but courthouses, banks, government buildings, you name it. And today, these homes still stand as symbols of classical beauty and a connection to our history. They're truly timeless. Which of these styles sparks your imagination? What elements would you incorporate into your own dream home? Perhaps a touch of queen and extravagance, a dash of craftsman simplicity, or a whisper of brutalist boldness. The possibilities are endless, and the architectural past is a rich source of inspiration. Enjoyed this exploration of architectural history? Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content on unique and forgotten designs. Forgotten designs. Forgotten designs. Forgotten designs.